Solange Zog, 28.
Jose Gallegos, 26.
Raul Ruiz, 56.
Cheryl Reese, 48.
Ian Reese, 19.
America Hernandez, 17.
Radium is a radioactive chemical element on the periodic table of elements. It is classified as an alkaline earth metal. When radium decays, it emits ionizing radiation and produces fluorescent chemicals, and can also cause radioluminescence. Radioluminescence is a low light source for night illumination. Towards the beginning of World War I, there became a demand for pocket watches and military dials. Time needed to be seen not only in the daylight, but in nighttime as well. Therefore, these clocks were painted with radium. After the war, men came home with all sorts of new watches, and this increased the demand and want for these watches. According to the Britannica from the article, the women who fought for their lives in the killer workplace, while men were at war with hundreds of young women were hired for well-paying painting jobs. Because of their small hands, were well suited for the exacting detailed work. They soon became known as the Radium Girls. In 1917, these young women considered themselves blessed to have landed a job in a large warehouse complex in Orange, New Jersey, working for the United States Radium Company. This job paid 3 times more than most factory jobs. The ladies were to apply the radium glowing paint to faces of clocks. They were also encouraged to slip the paintbrush in between their lips for a wet, fine point on their brush. In order to get better detail, this was called the lick and dip method. This is what they considered light work. The online website, All That's Interesting, from the article The Unbelievable True Story of America Radium Girls, states that for several years, working at the radium plant was fun and very well paid. So many of the employees encouraged their sisters, nieces, and sisters-in-laws to apply. By 1920, several large families were working on the United States Radium Company floor, totaling around 300 girls at the peak of operations. Why radium? The podcast My Favorite Murder in the episode Lick the Clock states radium was used in medicine for cancer treatment. This made people think it could be used as an all-healing treatment, and they even used it for fevers, cancers, and constipation. After consuming radium, their cheeks would turn a rosy color and is what they considered a good sign of sign of good health. From research, we know radium is a toxic radioactive element we should not be consuming. They used it in toothpaste, cosmetics, and spas even put it in their tonic waters. What made radium seem beneficial? They called it radium liquid sunshine because of the glow it gave off to the skin, clothes, and anything that you applied it to. The girls would wear their nicest clothes to work on Fridays and later wore them out on Saturdays to balls and dances. The radium would illuminate their dresses on the dance floor. Girls painted their nails with radium, sprinkled flakes into their hair, and even applied it to their teeth to give their kiss a pop, says Richard Stockton, a freelance science and technology writer. At the time, radium was the most expensive product in the States, costing $2.2 million a gram in today's money. Why didn't chemists say anything? Radium was discovered 20 years before the fluorescent paint, but the discoverers, Curie and Marie Curie, later found their discovery was dangerous. Curie once said he couldn't bear the thought of sharing a room with even a kilogram of radium because he was afraid it would blind him and burn off all his skin. Even after this recognition, the United States Radium Company wore lead aprons and gear to protect them, but the ladies continued working after being told the paint was safe to handle. No precautions were taken while they were handling radium. They continued to apply and consume it. In January of 1920, one of the Radium Girls, Molly Maggie, got a toothache. Her dentist simply pulled one tooth. When she went back, he continued to pull one tooth until they needed to remove a fast-growing abscess on her jaw. Her dentist gently prodded at her ashy and gray bone until it crumbled under his fingertips. He was shook. It simply took his own hand to completely remove her entire left jaw. Molly wasn't the only girl that this was happening to. Many Radium Girls had had collapsed vertebrae, skin cancer, throat cancer, and long-term effects from radiant exposure, such as loose teeth and hair loss. Molly shortly died, with the cause of her death being labeled as syphilis. The United States Radium Company was okay with this attribution until accusations and lawsuits came about. By 1924, when many Radium Girls were ill or had passed, the United States Radium Company was taken down because Molly's corpse showed no signs of syphilis, but a death caused by radiation. Vindication came too late for most Radium Girls. Most died young, usually in horrible pain and fear, while others lived in with many weakened bones, lost teeth, and various forms of cancer, which may or may have not been caused by their exposure to radioactivities, says Stockton, writer of the All That's Interesting article. After an ugly court battle, some of the Radium Girls were compensated, while others unfortunately were not. The bad experience of the United States Radium Company and its Radium Girls has benefited many people in the workforce.